Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is Jean Adrienne. Jean Adrienne is the founder of InnerSpeak, the author of 5 books and 2 decks of Oracle activation cards. You can find out more about Jean Adrienne and her wonderful work at jeanadrienne.com. Welcome, Jean Adrienne.
Thank you, Catherine. It is so good to see you again.
Now, we're here for our audience to talk about what your body can tell you. Now, Jean and I know that your body's always talking to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Always, like, oh, I'm a little hungry, or I have a little ache in my back, or, you know, there's many messages that your body's giving you all the time. And so, Jean Adrienne, can you explain for us your concept of the soul and the body diva?
Yeah. So, not only is your body talking to you all the time, but your body's listening all the time. And your body is hearing stuff that you aren't hearing. Your body hears things that are beyond the scope of the human ear. But, so you might be in a room at a party and there's somebody on the other side of the room that makes a derogatory comment about your body or the dress you have on or how it fits or how your hair looks or whatever. Your body hears it and your body internalizes that information. Well, your body's got a choice. Your body can go, oh, well, that's their opinion, whatever. Or your body can go, oh no, that's how they feel about me, and stores it. And your body's very organized about where it stores all this information it doesn't process. It's like it's got a 4-drawer file cabinet that has hanging folders in it, and each one's labeled, and it knows, oh, I'm going to put this piece of information in that 2nd drawer in the 5th folder back. I mean, it's that organized and that literal. And we usually, unless you've listened to Catherine a lot or unless you listen to me, you don't really even know about that concept about what the body's doing. So here's my take on it. So take what you want and leave the rest. So because this is a holographic universe, if I have a soul, and I think pretty much everybody who's listening to this is going to agree that we have a soul, right? So if I've got a soul, then it stands to reason that not only do I have a soul, but my physical body must have a soul as well. And then you drill it on down, every single cell of my body has a soul. And because of that, all of our organs and glands have souls. And every one of them has a purpose and a mission and all of that kind of stuff. And it all ties together to make the sum total of the body soul thing. So that's really where I come from when I'm doing this work. And it's so interesting right now because so much of the focus in the world today has to do with the body. I mean, everybody's talking about how can I keep my body, my immune system healthy so I don't get the coronavirus. And a lot of that can be taken care of just by listening to the body and energetically. And it really doesn't necessarily have to do with wearing of a mask or social distancing or whatever, although I do agree that all of those things are very important. But it's more about having an open and honest relationship between you, the soul, and the body, because you're not the body. You're just a beam of light that lives inside your body. You're a unique expression of the creator or of source energy. And your body is like the car that your soul travels in. So does that make sense?
Yes. And, I just really love talking to other healers here on the Natural Healing Show about their point of view, because I have a little different point of view. When I'm doing a medical intuitive reading, I read what I call the 5 levels. So in my view, you are a soul. So what's a soul? It's an eternal being.
Mm-hmm.
So when we pass away, your soul will continue to live. Your soul controls your mind controls your emotions control your energy system, and your energy system controls the physical body, right? So that's kind of how I see it. But I very much respect and appreciate how you're seeing it. And I agree with you that your body hears everything that you say, and it hears all the messages from society around us. So for example, in my view, there's called miasms. So miasms are cultural beliefs. So for example, one cultural belief is that you're supposed to have an ideal weight. What does that mean, right? My ideal weight may be different from your ideal weight, right? You know, and somebody may be healthy at a certain weight and not healthy at another weight. So, and there's also miasms about aging, like you're supposed to get sick and die. I'm 61, I'm probably healthier than I've ever been. Mm-hmm. So we have these beliefs that our body gets bombarded with, and there are cultural beliefs and societal beliefs, but there's also personal beliefs that you may be holding, and messages that you may be giving to your body. So when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself first thing in the morning, what do you say? Right?
I say, you are gorgeous, and you are fit, and you are wonderful, and I love you so much.
Yes. And
that's me in front of the mirror brushing my teeth.
Yeah. And thank you. You know, thank you for all the ways you bodies support me, right? Mm-hmm. And thank you for all the ways that you're supporting my soul purpose. So Jean Adrienne, founder of InnerSpeak, what do you feel is the main job of the body?
Okay, so your body is a nature spirit. Your body is of the earth, you know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. When you come in, you're coming into a nature thing. So your body's job is creation, is manifesting stuff on the earth plane, and is processing all of those feelings and emotions. She's the one that puts them in the file folders and, you know, opens the drawers, and, or she goes, "Ooh, isn't that nice?" You know, so that's how I see the role of the body. And so if your body is out of whack, or is signaling to you something that is not comfortable, then maybe your body's communicating with you in an inappropriate way.
Right. And, you know, I agree with you about, you know, one way to think about our body is like a file cabinet, right? Mm-hmm. So you hold, for example, you hold anger in your liver, and fear in your kidneys, and grief in your lungs, right? And we could go on. We could have a whole discussion about which emotions you hold where. It's very interesting to me. I've taught yoga for 25 years, and the system of yoga talks about the 5 levels of the body, and their translation of the physical body is the body of food. And certainly what, you know, that phrase, "you are what you eat," is very true, right? So, you know, when you're eating high vitality food, then you create this body that's full of vitality as well. Now, Jean Adrienne, what happens when our body doesn't accept something?
Okay, so I want to go back to what you just said about storing emotions and feelings, because not only is it going into an organ, but it's going into a chakra, because the organs are all associated with the chakra system, and also the acupuncture meridians. So depending on where the body chooses to store something, it's always going to end up affecting an organ, but it might start in a chakra, it might start in an acupuncture meridian, and then if it doesn't process and etc., then it's going to end up making you physically ill.
Right.
So it starts somewhere out here, and then it comes
For
into
sure.
here. And so what happens when the body doesn't accept something, it's going to first store one of those wounds somewhere in its field. And it's going to usually start in the spiritual body, which is the one that's the farthest out. And if it doesn't get processed while it's hanging around there, then it's going to come into the middle body. If it doesn't get processed in the mind, then it's going to come into the emotional body, and lastly, into the physical body. So if it's got like lots of chances to resolve this and let it go. But if it doesn't, then we go into physical stuff, illness, pain, non-sustainable communication ways between the soul and the body.
Yeah, and you and I very much agree with that. And Sigmund Freud had a quote, and I'm definitely going to bungle it here, but basically Sigmund Freud said, you know, unprocessed emotions never die. They just show up in uglier ways, right?
Yeah.
So when you experience emotional discomfort or mental discomfort or a soul wound, if you don't take care of it at that level, then it's going to come into the physical. And I agree with Jean Adrienne in that all dis-ease, all illness begins in your energy field and comes in. So you may have a soul wound, and I was just writing this morning about wounded spirit because I believe a lot of us are experiencing a wounded spirit now. And so that comes in, it affects the way you think, your thoughts and beliefs. Maybe life sucks, then you die, you know, I'll never get out of this, la, 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 all those negative beliefs. And then those negative beliefs affect the way you feel. They affect your emotions. And then your emotions affect your energy. You know, we've all experienced, you know, what it feels like to be exhausted when you're super depressed, or kind of nervously wired when you're anxious. And then all that again comes when you don't process it on those other levels, then it's going to be coming into the physical body. So it's my experience, and I'm sure yours as well, you would agree, that when you want to heal, you have to heal on all 5 levels. And it's not just taking an herb or eating better. You can eat better all you want, but if you're not clearing the energetic, the emotional, the mental, and the soul causes of your dis-ease, even if you shift something, it's just going to move around to another organ, another layer, until you completely deal with it, right?
Yeah, and you know, and boy, today all of us, we are really looking for that magic bullet, that one shot thing that's going to fix anything physical. And the problem that we fail to take into consideration is that there are layers of this stuff. So you might fix it on the physical layer, you might fix it on the emotional layer, but you might have 15 layers at the mental plane and 37 layers in the spiritual plane, and you got to get to all of them. So it requires consistency and commitment to really get to all the stuff. And then when you do, that's when a spontaneous healing will take place.
Yes. And again, really recognizing that you're a physical body, but you're also an energy system, your emotions, your thoughts and beliefs, and then you are a soul. You know, I appreciate what you said about everybody looking for a magic bullet. In March of 2020, I was interviewed by a journalist from Australia, and he had a really negative attitude, and he asked me about coronavirus. And then he ended up quoting me as saying that colloidal silver will cure coronavirus. I was so angry with him. And I sent him an article about 24 ways that you can boost your immune system. You know,
colloidal silver is one of those.
Yeah, one of them, but it's not, it's like, it's part of this bigger picture, right?
Oh, exactly.
Not just, you know, you do this one thing and all your problems will go away. If only it would be that simple.
Yeah. And, you know, another piece of this that people don't always take into consideration has to do with, again, and this is where you and I think we're really on the same page, but we use a little bit different semantics. that the body's soul doesn't die either. Your soul doesn't die, your body's soul doesn't die. So in my reality, whenever I get ready to incarnate, then I sit down and I make my laundry list of all those things that I want to master when I'm on the earth plane that I can't do when I'm sitting on a cloud playing a harp. And then I enlist the soul of my body and we compare notes on my list, and I'll say, okay, so in this lifetime, what do you think? Should I be a male or should I be a female? And where do you want to pull this thing off? How about the United States? I think I want to do it in the United States this time, or whatever, you know. And what happens is those wounds that didn't get resolved in the body get brought forward with the body's soul to be taken care of in the next incarnation on the earth plane. So it's not only soul stuff that gets worked on, but it's also the body soul stuff that gets worked on.
Right. And I agree with you. I think that one of the big lessons that a lot of us are really having to learn right now is, how do I take care of my body? What does it mean to take care of my body? Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And some people have a general idea of, well, I need to exercise more, or maybe I need to eat better, or maybe I need to drink more water. But it also comes down to really listening.
Absolutely.
So Jean Adrienne, what are some of the ways our body uses to get our attention?
So a lot of times the body will use lack of wholeness, lack of comfort, lack of money, because your body's your manifesting engine. So if you want to attract money on the earth plane, you got to let your body become prosperity so that it can attract. So it will use lack, it will use pain, it will use illness, it will use accidents, all kinds of stuff like that to get our attention. And guess what? Those are not sustainable ways to communicate with a soul. Whereas if we had a regular routine of listening, body listening to soul, soul listening to body, which can be done in meditation, which you teach, then those would be healthy, sustainable ways. The other piece is, you know, you and I think we'll agree that we're multidimensional beings. Well, your body's a multidimensional being as well. And so your body, he or she, has aspects in higher realms. So like all the energy that's coming onto the planet today, and it's a ton, and it's more than we've ever had, I think, in any lifetime coming onto the planet. So your body sometimes has a hard time dealing with all of this energetic stuff and processing it and figuring out what to do with it. But your body could go up high and process this stuff up high and then reflect that energy back down to us on the earth plane. And that would be a sustainable and healthy way to handle that, as an example.
Right. And, you know, a real simple thing to do if you're listening to this broadcast is to just really tune in every day and ask your body, what do you need right now? What do you need right now to feel the best that you can possibly feel? So when I've been asking my body that recently, I've been getting, you need a lot of yoga, you need a lot of time in nature, right? So camping in nature, walking in nature, just being outside in the fresh air and the sunshine. And, you know, but the point is, just ask. All you really have to do is ask, and the answers will for sure be given to you.
Oh yeah. You know, and I don't know, it's been quite a few years now since I actually discovered that I could talk to my body, and that I wasn't my body, and that my body Deva is a female. But now, not all women's body devas are female. Not all men's body devas are male. It's, you know, you got to figure out, find your own, connect with and learn. But I didn't ask what did she need. The first question I asked was, what do you want? And well, you better be careful what questions you ask, because you might get an answer you aren't prepared for. So the first time that I tried to communicate with my body, I want to say it's like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, the answer that I got was, why should I talk to you? You've never listened to me. You abuse me. You don't do what I'm asking you to do. You don't pay attention. I don't trust you. Why should I talk to you? And it took me, I don't know, a while to gain the confidence of my body enough that we could begin to slightly communicate. And that's when I asked her that question. So, honey, what do you want? And she said, I want a new red sports car. And I was like, what? I've got a perfectly good paid for Honda CRV. And I really don't want a car payment. And, you know, okay. Well, it wasn't 2 weeks until that paid for Honda CRV started falling apart, you know, and literally, I mean, one problem after the next, to the point that I thought, I guess I'm going to have to go get a new car. And I'd never had a Subaru before, but I heard they had, you know, standard with all-wheel drive, and they were really good cars and very reliable. And I was living in the mountains at that point where I had to have four-wheel drive. So I went and looked at a used Subaru Forester. And by the time I got there, it was sold. And so the guy says, well, wait, tell me what it is you're really looking for. What's your lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. He says, you don't want the Forester. That's not the car for you. You want the Crosstrek. Would you like to drive one since you've traveled an hour to get here? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so what do you know? He comes pulling around, and the car that he's pulling in for me to test drive is a red Subaru Crosstrek. Doesn't get any sportier than that. And so I drove home in a brand new red sports car.
That's so funny. And, you know, I can remember when I first started listening to my body, I was in my early 30s, and right now I'm 61. And I remember different healers said to me, Catherine, you drive your body like a car. In other words, you hop in, go, let's just go, go, go. And it really takes a while, I think, when we first start listening, to develop a compassionate, kind, loving, truly harmonious relationship with our body. So we're not just using the body like this vehicle to get these other places, right?
Oh, yeah. You know, and so, I mean, one of the questions that I ask my body now, because I've learned to be a little bit smarter than that, I mean, what do you need? And how can we have a more cohesive relationship? I'm wanting to do X. How can we have a more cohesive relationship to accomplish that? And sometimes it's semantics. So for example, there was a point where, you know, I've never really lacked for money. I've always had enough money to pay my bills, but I never really seemed to get way far ahead. And so I was talking to my body about that. And I said, so what is it you're after here financially? And she said, well, I want financial security. And I thought, oh, well, in my book, security means not having to worry about anything, just enough to get by. You always have enough money to pay the bills, and, you know, but you're secure. I said, have you ever considered financial freedom? And she was like, freedom. Oh, so that I don't even have to think about money, and I can just do whatever I want to do. Okay, cool. And that was a turning point. That was pivotal in my relationship with money and my relationship with my body, because now I stay in that flow, and I don't have to worry about, am I going to get enough money to come in order to be able to pay the mortgage or the car payment or whatever, you know? So sometimes it's semantics. You've got to figure out how you, the soul, can talk to your body in the best way. And it may not be the same as I do, or it may not be the same as Catherine does.
Right. And, you know, one way, I think one time when a lot of people really start talking and communicating with their body is when they get injured. Yeah. So for example, let's say you've hurt your knee and you need knee surgery. You may talk to your knee and say, knee, what is it that you need in order to heal, right? Or you hurt your back pain. What is it that you need in order to heal? So it's these sort of events that I think really help to open up this process of body-soul communication. Now, Jean Adrienne, I know that you have techniques that you use to assist the body in releasing stuck energies. Would you share with our audience some of the ways that you do this?
Sure. Well, I guess the first piece was when I opened a channel in 2002, and I received this body of work called InnerSpeak, which is really all about that. And at that point, I didn't even realize that my body was a separate aspect of myself, So that was kind of like the cart before the horse. Now, what I do is I have this open communication many times a day with my body to ask and to listen and to support. But at the most basic level, without even, if you're watching the show, without even having to get an InnerSpeak clearing from me or a healing from Catherine or whatever, you can ask your body what it's trying to communicate to you. And then you can support your body in letting go. Because usually, if your body's holding on to stuff, it might be yours, but it might not be. It might belong to mass consciousness. It might belong to an ancestor. It might be something that you brought in from another lifetime. It might be something that belongs to your next door neighbor. So it's really important to figure out, okay, what are we dealing with here? And is it really mine? And if it's not really mine, then it needs to go back. Because in times past, maybe even recent past, we were able to help other people by processing their stuff. But as we've raised consciousness on this planet, the pushback on trying to get involved in other people's spiritual lessons can be quite painful. So it's really important to figure out whose it is, and if it's not yours, to give it back. And there's a very simple technique for doing that. Connect with your body at the level of your body's higher self, and then just invite your body to locate any and all responsibilities that your body's taken on for someone else, whether it is mass consciousness or a friend or an ancestor or a past life or whatever, and send that responsibility back where it belongs. You don't need to know where it goes, but send it back at the level of the owner's higher self in a dimension where they can receive it. And send the appropriate energetic information that will help them. You can give them information, but it's kind of like the Bobby Riggs and Billie Jean King tennis match from many, many years ago. So your younger listeners are not even going to know who I'm talking about. But he was really good at lobbing the ball over the fence. When you lob the responsibilities and the appropriate energetic information over the fence, you're not hooking up in a codependent way with that person. It's just boom, and it's up to them to either get it and lob it back, or they miss it and it goes by the boards. Who knows? It doesn't matter. Not your job to fix anybody but your own stuff.
Right. And Jean Adrienne, I think you're bringing up an important point for our audience, which is that some of what you literally feel may not actually be your feelings. Mm-hmm. So let's say I go to the store and the checker is feeling anxious or depressed. Then a person, empathetic people, may actually pick up that energy without even recognizing they're doing it. Yep. And here on the Natural Healing Show, we've done a number of interviews about how to handle being a highly sensitive person. I've written about this extensively, but one of the first steps is to recognize this pain is not mine. A good example of this I'll give for our audience. I remember years ago, I was working in person with a client who had neck pain, and by the end of the session, her neck pain was gone. I go up.
And you had it.
I go to make dinner, and my neck hurt. I was like, wait a minute, this isn't mine. Right. So if you just realize this isn't mine, and just affirm that, sometimes you can clear even 40% of it. It's like, this isn't mine. You may not even have to figure out, well, whose pain was that? Whose depression is that? Whose anxiety is that? And but just to affirm, it's not mine. Another extreme example, I remember years ago, all of a sudden I felt really horrible, and I picked up on an IRA bombing in Ireland. Mm-hmm. And it took a while to kind of figure out what that was, but it's like, this isn't yours. And, if you're an empath and you're listening, a really good thing to do is to say a prayer and ask your angels and your spiritual guides not to bother you with events that you can't do anything about.
So let me follow on that one, because this happened last week. I never have trouble sleeping. Man, I hit the bed and I'm gone, and I wake up sometimes the next morning in the exact same position I fell asleep in. But a particular night last week, I swear I didn't sleep all night long, and I was like, had these repetitive thoughts that were just craziness in my head. There was a song that was playing over and over and over again, not even a song I knew of. Mathematical strings of numbers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And I woke up exhausted and pissed, because why did I do that to myself? So I have this thing that I do every night before I go to sleep. I invite my body at the level of her higher self to take her to her cave. She's got this beautiful cave that is filled with purple velvet and gold braid and all this wonderful bed in a cave in another dimension, far, far away from the noise of mass consciousness. And then I go play with the dolphins and the whales, or maybe the mer people, or I go to Sirius or whatever, while my body's resting and restoring. I forgot to do it that night. And so I wake up early, and the first thing I do is I take my dog out, I pick up my phone, go outside, and I'm sitting on the deck and I go through emails and stuff that's come in overnight. And there was a message from a client in London. And my client said, I didn't sleep a wink last night. I had all these repetitive thoughts and anxiety stuff and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you forgot to send your Body Deva to the cave, didn't you, Jean? And that was exactly it. So it's that easy. If you're a sensitive, it's that easy to pick it up. And the most vulnerable time that you have is at night, so why not, take preparatory measures and put your body in a safe place before you go to sleep.
Right. Now, one of the things that I teach people about, of course, is intuition. And there's many reasons that you may want to receive intuitive information. Another synonym to me for the word intuition is soul guidance, because your intuition is information your soul is receiving for your highest good. And I may get a little bit technical here, but you use different intuitive gifts for different aspects of you. And one area where you receive information is for your physical body. But each of us is going to receive information about your body in a unique way. So there's 4 primary psychic gifts: claircognizance, which is just knowing. So you'll just know that food's wrong, that exercise is right, this doctor is the right person, this naturopath is the right person. There's clairaudience, which is hearing. So you may hear your body communicating with you. Clairsentience, which is feeling and feeling what's going on. And then finally, clairvoyance, which is where you're going to receive information in images, in symbols. So you may see a picture of a supplement that you need, right? Or you see yourself exercising in a certain way. So, Jean Adrienne, how do you feel we can learn to communicate better with our body?
So, like you said, I think each of us does that differently. I'm more clairsentient, claircognizant in my communication with my body. Sometimes though, I'm clairvoyant. Sometimes I actually see her standing there, like pissed. So it's been known to happen. But I think each of us probably has a primary way that we do it. And mine is claircognizance. And then there's secondary, tertiary, and the 4th way. I don't know what that would be in an airy. Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's a matter of doing it.
Yeah. And so in my view, part of what I do is help people understand how you are going to receive information, right? Because if you understand how you're doing it, Jean has a way, I have a way, but the way that you do it naturally is going to be the easiest for you to listen to or feel or see, right?
Yep.
And in my view, that's very important for you to understand how you receive information about your body, so you're not sitting there arguing with yourself.
Or judging yourself. So many people will judge themselves as wrong because they're not getting it the way I get it.
Right.
Because they don't hear it or they don't see it. And they think, well, my intuition just doesn't work. And, judgment is against the rules. So we have to throw that out and accept that we are going to get it, but we've got to be looking in the right direction. If I'm getting it from over here and you're getting it from over there, and I'm looking over here, I'm never going to get it.
Exactly. And my book, Unlimited Intuition Now, is a handbook that you can use to help you identify how your soul communicates with you and how you're going to receive information about your body, right? Now, Jean Adrienne, what happens when our physical body takes responsibility for other people's issues?
So it creates illness or pain or lack. It's all those inappropriate ways of communication, and it blocks our flow. Because if we're focusing on something that doesn't belong to us, then we're not getting that information that would be supporting us in raising our consciousness or attracting more abundance or feeling better. So that's why it's so important that we stay focused on our own stuff, because there's not a darn thing we can do about somebody else's stuff.
Right. Now, let's talk about gender disparity between the soul and the body. And, right now, we hear the Natural Healing Show, we support gay and lesbian people, we support transgender people, but at the same time, you have a sexual identity, but you have to understand that there's a soul relationship with your sexuality. Mm-hmm. So, Jean Adrienne, will you share your views on this topic?
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said earlier, not all women have a body that has the soul of a woman. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're gay. It just can mean that their body deva is primarily masculine. Sometimes they do show up as a lesbian. And with the same thing, I've got quite a few clients who are female and have male body devas, or are male and have female body devas, and they're absolutely heterosexual. They just look at the world in a different way. The woman might be more type A personality, because she's operating a lot from that masculine body aspect. The man might be more sensitive because he operates a lot from the female body aspect, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But what can happen is that this can create a wounding until you get in touch with it and acknowledge it, of feeling less than, or worried that you're not good enough, or worried about, well, what am I even?
Right.
And thinking you're wrong.
Yeah. And, from my experience, I have 27 years experience in natural healing. And, here's sort of my view of how it happens. Not that I'm right, not that I know anything, but, so you're a little soul, you're up there, you're trying to be born. And, maybe your first choice is to be a man or a woman. And a lot of times when the soul incarnates in the embryo, that pregnancy doesn't work out. And it's not necessarily the fault of the mother. There's many reasons why pregnancies don't work out. So as a soul, you may keep trying and trying and trying. And, maybe you have a very strong purpose for your soul being incarnated in this lifetime, in this body. And then maybe sometime you come in and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't get the body that I wanted. Wait a minute. I can remember years ago working with a lady. She was a gay woman and a lesbian. And she said that as a child, even as a little girl, she used to go to bed every night praying that she would wake up as a boy. Mm-hmm. And this conflict, this inner conflict, can cause a tremendous amount of inner suffering. Yes. Forget conflict with your parents or your society about whether or not they accept your sexuality. It's you accepting and embracing who you are, right? But this can be some of the issues that can happen. And whether you're gay, lesbian, transgender, you really want to come to peace about it within yourself, so that you stop the cycle of endless suffering, right?
Because when you're in that endless suffering cycle, you can't enact your mission. You know, you came here for a reason, and maybe that reason was to model what it's like to be a woman in a man's body,
Right.
you
And
know, or vice versa.
right. And that lady that I mentioned, she had severe lifelong depression.
Mhm.
No drug could touch it, right? And
Yep.
it was only when she really began to understand, you know, where did this depression begin,
Yeah.
right? And really begin to accept herself that she could unwind this pattern.
Right.
So, Jean Adrienne, how can we develop a more cohesive relationship with our body?
Strictly by communicating. You know, communication's the bottom line, I think, for any kind of a relationship. And set aside time every day, many times a day, even if you have it, to talk to your body and to allow and to listen to your body, you know, because it's not a one-way thing where you're constantly telling your body, well, I want you to lose weight. I want you to eat right. And I want you to and. Because that will piss your body off. Nobody likes to be micromanaged. You know, I mean, think about your job. How does it feel when your boss assigns you a task and then tells you detail by minute detail how to do it? Like, wait a minute, what happened to my creativity? You know, and the same with the body. So set aside the time for communication and be consistent about it.
Right. And, you know, we've talked about asking your body, what do I want? What do you want? What do you need? Another great time I feel to really have this cohesive relationship with your body is when you're moving, with your exercising.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have, say, a workout and, you know, you push through it and it's, you know, it's 5 a.m. Maybe you'd rather be in bed, but it's like, get up, get your, you know, self out there and do it, right? And that's a very forceful way of dealing with your body versus when you're beginning to exercise, you know, really, I feel it's really good to really tune in. How do you feel today? Do you need gentle movement? Do you need vigorous movement? What's going to uplift you the most right now? And it's during the times I feel when you're literally moving your body and moving your energy that you can find some sort of connection. In yoga, of course, I've taught yoga now for 25 years. You know, yoga is all about mind, body, spirit connection, right?
Yep.
And I know that when I teach yoga, I never teach the same class twice. I literally tune in to the bodies of the students in the class and figure out what do they need, what do they want, and then I do my best as a teacher to lead them through those movements. But I think it's definitely a mistake to always adopt one approach or the other. So always be lazy or always be pushy.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking before we went on the air, there's so many areas that you can explore communicating with your body about. We were talking about ask your body, what color clothes would uplift you today? And we both got the same memo. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I turn on my intuition every day is by asking, okay, what color do you need to wear? And sometimes it's for me, sometimes it's for my client. Obviously here to be in harmony with Jean Adrienne, right?
Mhm.
What's interesting about the color turquoise is that turquoise clears grief, right?
Mm.
So turquoise is a healing color for grief. And right now during the coronavirus pandemic, I think there's a lot of grief in the lungs, grief about deaths, grief about job losses, you know, grief about the loss of a way of life. So coming to terms with that, right?
Exactly.
So Jean Adrienne, founder of InnerSpeak, any final thoughts about what our body can tell us?
You know, our body is our partner in our journey through life. And if you want to have an easy journey, then get really cohesive in your relationship with your body. Talk to it and listen to it and make it be a joyful journey. It doesn't have to be hard, you know, and nobody wants hard. We want to do what we came here to do with ease and grace and love and joy. And that is possible. So open communication.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. And you can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. If you go to catherinecarrigan.com, I've written countless articles about the meaning of different illnesses and different diseases and what your muscles are saying. So just go to catherinecarrigan.com and you can find a lot of information that you can use to begin to inquire what's happening. Our guest today has been the wonderful Jean Adrienne, founder of InnerSpeak, author of 5 books and 2 decks of Oracle activation cards. You can find out more about Jean Adrienne and her wonderful work at jeanadrienne.com. And remember, when you learn to listen carefully to the body and heed its many messages, natural healing occurs.